I was on Wall Street, I was in investment management, and so very logical. I grew up in that rational, material world of logic. I was skeptical of everything, none of this hocus pocus. So fast forward, I'm listening to this thing every day for about 12 months. Apparently 12 has that magic experience in your brain where something opens up. I'm deep into meditation, and the next thing I know, there are these four spirit beings in my mind's eye, the one that stands out. Literally shot a beam of energy straight through my heart. I just remember this overwhelming, unconditional love. It kept on saying, "You're perfect, you're perfect."
Still have questions after watching these videos? Perfect. Come hang out with me on Wake Up Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern, where we will answer your questions live. And you never know what surprise guests might show up. Thank you for watching. My guest today is Chris Lippincott, who is a medium and had a spiritual awakening experience, and we're going to learn about that today. So, Chris, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Laurie, for having me on. Pleasure here.
So, you had a very interesting financial career, not exactly connecting to the woo-woo-ness of mediumship. But you had a massive spiritual awakening that changed everything for you. And I think that's where I'd really like to start today. So I'd love to just let you tell that story in any way you'd like to share it.
Sure. It's probably a great place to begin because I had, as you mentioned, a 30-year background in finance. I was on Wall Street, I was in investment management, and so very logical. I kind of grew up in that rational, material world of logic. You got to have things done exactly. I was skeptical of everything. None of this hocus pocus. So I was very down to earth. But I was getting so worked up, so stressed out in my career that I was looking around trying to find ways that I could calm down. And eventually I ran across this concept called meditation. And initially I was like, meditation, don't have to be wearing like a turban, be up in the Himalayas somewhere. And I discounted it until eventually I ran across this track or audio track where it didn't have an agenda. It was really calm. It was really nice and laid back. I started to say to myself, okay, I can deal with this. I can listen to this. And I just started, listening to it over and over. I started getting hooked on the track. And it was only 15 minutes. I'd stand to listen to it like every single day before I went to work. And I didn't really realize quite what I was doing. In hindsight, I knew exactly what I was doing, but then I didn't know. So fast forward, I'm listening to this thing for every day for about 12 months. Apparently 12 has that magic experience in your brain where something opens up. And that's I'm sitting in my man cave one day. Every guy's got to have his man cave. Just listening to it. I think it was a Saturday morning. And I'm deep into meditation, and the next thing I know, there are these four spirit beings in my mind's eye, because my eyes were closed. I'm like, what is going on? Two on my left, two on my right. The one all the way to my right was the biggest. For some reason, I recognized these people, but I couldn't put a figure on them. I'm like, I don't know why I know you, but I know you somehow. The guy all the way on the right literally shot a beam of energy straight through my heart. And I was like, oh my God, this is not a dream. This is real. I could feel the energy going through my heart, out my back. And as soon as that happened, I remember myself suddenly somehow being somewhere else. I don't know if it was like space or stars or something. And I just remember being connected somehow to everything. It was kind of like I was that little thread that went through the whole tapestry, but we're all interwoven and interconnected somehow. And I was like, this is wild because the tapestry, this went on forever. And there was another part where, for some reason, I just remember this overwhelming, unconditional love that obviously the human word love has no, real justice. If this whole thing was an iceberg, the human word love was like the tip of the iceberg, the top 1%. The love I was experiencing was the other 99% below the surface. It was like total unconditional acceptance, which blew my mind. And then I can remember at one point it kept on saying, "You're perfect, you're perfect." And I'm like, there's no way I can be perfect. You don't know what I've done in my life. There's no way. And it just kept on coming like this. And I was just like, it was amazing. And eventually I kind of came out of it. I was eventually, grappled on. I grabbed on my chair. I ran to my desk, wrote everything down. And as soon as that happened, I could start feeling energy. And I started feeling the energy that I had when I was a kid. Like when I was a kid, I had these experiences where I would feel energy, like these little tingling goosebumps going up and down my arm, and it would wrap around me like a blanket. And I'd hear voices. There was one time where I was in my room as a child, and I would hear voices in my room, my parents at the other end of the house. I didn't have any siblings, and it kept on coming closer. And of course, as a kid, I thought, it's a monster coming to take me away. So I kept on hearing those voices. And as a kid, I also felt like a hand on my back every so often in the middle of the night. Again, no siblings, parents at the other end of the house. I'd feel that energy again, like the presence. Somebody's there. I'd whip around and nobody's there. Of course, I thought I was a grown man scared of the dark as an adult, but it just kept on evolving, developing, growing, getting more intense until eventually, I'd start feeling the presence. I'd start feeling the energy. I'd start feeling these people next to me, and I didn't know why, but I knew they were right there. And then I started hearing my parents' voice. They had already passed away when I was much younger. And then I would hear my other family members, and I'd hear their voices. And I started hearing these other voices. I just kept on kind of going and going and going. Until eventually I'm like, I got to do something with this. I'm starting to hear voices, and there are only two kind of people who can hear voices. Well, they're either crazy or they're mystics. Well, I know I'm not a mystic. Oh my God, I'm crazy. So I eventually had to, seek an answer to what's going on. And I started going to classes. I was involved with, the Arthur Finley School and, the local chapter in New Jersey, which is where I used to live. And I, took classes from all the biggies, Tony Stockwell, Janet Havoc, Jansen Prague, and eventually I started being able to harness everything that was there. So it was kind of like raw material, and they were shaping the clay. And eventually I'm like, wow. So then I started, saying, well, maybe there's something to it. Because I knew when it first happened, it was beyond me. Because I remember I came out of it, and for some reason I looked up in the sky. I don't know why I was looking at the sky, but I did. I just kind of went, why me? I'm just a regular guy. And before I could even get that thought out of my head, I already had the answer. It came back, because you're a regular guy. And I thought to myself, wow, you guys are brilliant. So now I'm, now I'm that medium who's been, doing this for, 10 years and connecting people to spirit, and the messages that come through are just filled with unconditional love. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. Well, Chris, how in the world do you reconcile an experience like this while you're having a financial career? Was it on Wall Street?
Both on Wall Street and on the buy side. So I was on Wall Street for about 12, 13 years. I was on the buy side for another, 13 years plus. So, I was on the sell side and the buy side, saw both sides of the coin.
So how does that reconcile with something that is not logical.
It took a long time. It's a great question because, I initially came to it very skeptically. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. I had to touch it, feel it, know it, measure it, all that kind of stuff. Because as an analyst, which is what I was an analyst. As an analyst, you're trained to be skeptical. You're trained to know everything down to the nth degree. You're trained to know just exactly how things work, the formulas for everything. Well, there's none of that here. But what kind of got me over the bump, got me over that hurdle, if you will, was I stumbled upon these very logical methods. Like I stumbled onto quantum physics. So a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing, but at least I started understanding the concepts of how this all works. And so my logical brain that was screaming at the time, it was like, this makes no sense. You can't do it. It's not right. You're going crazy. Suddenly started to make sense in it from a quantum perspective that explains it all. It's like, oh, now I get it. Yes, this makes complete sense. So then that logical resistance faded away. Plus, all the evidence that started coming through, I was like, I can't argue with this anymore. It's like, you go to court and you've got this mountain of evidence that just stacks up to the ceiling and you're like, kind of outweighs everything else.
So, can you give us a few examples of evidence that was evidential enough that it helped you to get over that hump and really believe this wasn't something that you were making up, imagining?
Yeah, that's a great question. The number of times that it happened, I had to pinch myself. There were times, for example, where I was giving a reading to a woman whose partner had died in a car accident. I didn't know any of this. She came into the reading and, we're kind of going back and forth, and I just kind of allowed myself to open up, and this man steps into my awareness, and I start describing, what he looked like, what his personality felt like, what his character traits felt like, what his, suddenly I'm getting his favorite color. I'm starting to get all these details that she's like, oh my God, yes, oh my God, yes. Because in evidential mediumship, the way that the reading works is you're only allowed to give the evidence you're receiving, and the sitter is only allowed to say yes, no, or maybe. It's like, don't feed the medium. That's the one thing that in evidential mediumship, that is the rule. The evidential medium must give the evidence, and once the evidence starts to come in, to the medium, it makes no sense. It's like, I'm getting this shoe. I don't know why they're giving me a shoe, but they're giving me a shoe, and all of a sudden the sitter says, yes, yes, yes. Oh my God, he loves shoes, or whatever. So this man kept on giving me all this evidence about his personality to the nth degree, his character traits to the nth degree, his facial features, his favorite color, and then he started describing this car accident. And he described exactly what the road looked like, what the time of day was. It was the evening, how many police cars were there, how the car landed. That was amazing. And then he started describing what this sitter had been doing since he had been gone. So he'd been giving evidence about, post-life verification and validation to what she did. And she's like, oh my God, yes. And then at the very end of this reading, which is the one that kind of stands out, he got down on his right knee. I'm like, I don't know what he's doing. He's down on his right knee for some reason. And all of a sudden the sitter goes, covers her mouth. And like, he's stretching out his arm, and now he's got this box in his arm. Looks like a small blue box. He's opening the box. He looks like he's proposing. I think he's proposing to you. Were you guys talking about getting married? And the sitter just loses it. She's like nodding and saying, yes, oh my God, oh my God. He was apparently going to proposed to her like that next day or something wild. And so she's just like completely lost it. And I'm like, well, I think he's proposing to you. And she's like, yes, yes, I say yes. Oh my God. And I mean, the two of us were just like in tears at the end of this reading.
Wow. I love that. You said something about your experience that really caught my attention. You said that there's a tapestry and that we're all connected and it went on forever. And I would love to hear, because it ties into what you just shared. Will you explain as best you can with the human words that we're limited to what that tapestry is and how that worked from your perspective?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. In my spiritual awakening, what I experienced was the initial part of this was that I felt like I was this microcosmic thread that was woven into this tapestry. You know how tapestries, they'll have like a thread that goes all the way back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and it's woven. That's how a tapestry is. Imagine like this tapestry, if you will, that goes on and it stretches on to infinity. You can't see the beginning, you can't see the end, but you know it started somewhere. But there's just one piece of thread, and it just is woven into this tapestry in whatever the pattern is, and it just started somewhere, and you know it ends somewhere, but you don't know where it on either end. You just know it just keeps on going. But then the other thing is, you know, there are gazillion other threads that make up this tapestry. So this tapestry is interwoven with unlimited threads that are all in one piece, combined together, with a tapestry that knows no end, has no beginning, stretches on to infinity. But we know we're all the same part. And it creates this tapestry of unity, this tapestry of oneness, this tapestry of interconnection, that we're all one, that we are a part of the same thing. The feeling that we're all these singular bodies, these singular people, is a construct of our ego mind, because the ego mind, when we're very young, creates this barrier between us and those mean people out there, because we've got to find a way to protect the little, 2-month-old that we are. So the only way we can do that is by creating that defensive wall. So we think we're separate. In fact, we are all one. We are just literally like that little droplet in the ocean. How can you separate a droplet of water from the ocean? You can't. How can you separate a wave from the ocean? You can't. It's all the same thing. That's what this tapestry was like. Everybody was connected. All the threads were connected. They created a pattern. It was all one, and it just extended ad infinitum.
Wow. So beautiful. I love that example. And you had another one I also loved, which was when you were talking about the iceberg and how the love that we experience here is like seeing the above part of the iceberg, but knowing that what's underneath is the majority of the iceberg, and that's what the other side was like. So
Yeah.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about that too, because it's so special.
Yeah. What we experience in the human world is conditional love. We may claim it's unconditional, the way a parent has love for their child. But should that child step out of bounds or do something that the parent doesn't like, can we really say that's unconditional? No, the parent kind of gets ticked off. I know, I do, and I know I'm just like all other parents. But there's something that's going to cause that parent to become a little bit less happy with that child. So there's always that conditional aspect to it. And there's always, in the human realm, there's always that aspect of you versus me. We may be really tight, we may be super close because it's parent-child relationship, or spousal relationship, or soul relationship, whatever you want to term it. It's really, really tight, but there's always going to be a you and me. There's always going to be that physical separation. Whereas in the non-physical realm, there is no separation. As I was just describing that sense of tapestry, there is perfection. There is no ability that you can be wrong, that you can do something that's bad, that you can have anything that is less than perfect, which is why when I had that feeling of hearing, you're perfect, you're perfect, you're perfect, that feeling coming, I was like, how could I possibly be perfect? Because my human mind was still thinking, I'm imperfect, right? We all think that. We're all conditioned that way. Lord knows the church does the same thing. But in the non-physical, you are truly an aspect of the oneness, and the oneness has always been perfect. There is no imperfection. So when we begin to realize that in this human realm, we are conditioned to feel we're bad, or we did something wrong, or we didn't do something the way we expected, we kind of get that ego mind going, and we're like, we're not perfect. So that's the 1%. Whereas in the non-physical, it's everything that you could beyond measure. It's everything you could imagine. It goes beyond that. And that was why I was saying that there's really no human words to describe it except perfect acceptance. Nothing you do could ever remove that perfect acceptance. We humans think, well, if I do something, it's going to have a negative effect. Never. Because the sheer fact that you exist is what makes you fully accepted. Just your plain existence. And that was what I experienced. It was like, wow, I am perfectly accepted for existing? How? I wasn't used to it.
I had a similar experience with understanding that with the perfection, and I've definitely talked to so many people who've had near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences that have shared that everything is unfolding perfectly and there's a perfection in them. But what happens in the comments all the time is that people have questions. And one of the questions that I feel that comes up over and over again is the yes, but, and they name any person that is in history that doesn't have what we would call a positive effect on the world. They'll name Hitler, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I do understand from the other, being on the other side, what we're talking about when we're talking about the perfection. But then people get confused and they don't understand because they think, well, if everything is perfect, that means it doesn't matter what you do. I would love for you to address that in any way that your spirit guides have shared, any way that you've understood it through your experience, because I feel like it's the hardest thing when somebody's waking up spiritually to reconcile.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the core of your question is really about, do our actions here on earth affect us, affect the world, affect our future, affect our non-physical existence? And I would absolutely say that every single thing that we do in the here and the now affects everything that we do in the future, in our non-physical existence, as well as it affects everybody else, from the butterfly effect. You could make it as small an effect as saying, just smiling to a stranger walking on the sidewalk, you will have the biggest impact on the world far beyond your wildest perception. Because that one little thing, you've got to begin to realize that you impact that one person, they impact another, and another, and another. So imagine yourself being that little pebble getting thrown into the pond. How many other people you wind up impacting because of your ripple effect? The butterfly effect, the ripple effect, whatever term you want to term it. If each person did that, imagine what the world would look like. If you just smiled at somebody, some stranger, or held a door open for somebody. When people say, oh, I've got to do these great loving gestures, love and kindness, and oh, I can't do that. That's only somebody like Jesus. Think again. Because what love and kindness is just being kind to a stranger. It's being nice. A loving gesture doesn't have to be this grandiose, pious, pie in the sky kind of thing. It can be a tiny microcosmic action that has a positive effect on somebody else, and start to think about what that ripple is going to be like. And then you begin to realize from your own hindsight in the spirit world, if you suddenly become spirit and you look back, what always has happened is, I wish I did that, or I wish I did the other thing, or I regret not doing the other thing, or I regret not saying something. Like, I regret not saying I love you, or I regret that I didn't listen to you. Things like that. Little concepts. But it's always, what's coming through is, I should have done that. So what winds up happening is we keep on coming back into the physical to keep on practicing our lifetimes over and over and over again until we finally get it right.
Well, I like that you brought that last part up, because we went in a super positive direction with the smiling, but we could also go in a super negative direction with things that are egregious acts towards other people. But I think the last part of it helps people to understand it's not a one and done, which is what a lot of people have been led to believe.
Right.
This is an earth experience that probably has hundreds to thousands of iterations for each soul experiencing over time,
Right.
refining, changing. And I also, I mean, I don't know that you've really had this on the medium side, but certainly in the near-death experiences, they have a life review many times where they're re-examining all of the things and judging themselves for how they could have showed up with love in a lot of their interactions and chose not to.
And what's so amazing about that is everybody, well, I don't know if it's the church that did this or what, but everybody thinks, oh, there's going to be some big person that's going to judge us. Well, we are our own worst critics, just like we are here on the earth. We are our own worst critics, our own worst judges. And when we see things that we did, we're like, oh gosh, I can't believe I did that. We cringe at what we've done. And then, like on the NDEs, we also get the experience of what it was like for the other person that we did
Right.
that thing to. There was a famous case of I think it was a mafia hitman who died, went to the other side, and came through in an automatic writing. In that automatic writing, he described his his review, his life review, and he started describing that process of how it felt to be the people whose lives he affected, the wives of the people he killed, the agony of all of the people around him, and it just kept on building and building and building until he was screaming to have these experiences stop. He's like, I can't take this anymore. But it kept on going, and he had to experience all of their experiences.
Right. And I think, thank you. That is so helpful. Like saying that is really helps people to understand it's not for nothing, but it is a choice. And I think we judge ourselves even by the intention, and the intention may count more than even, the things that we do by mistake.
Oh, 100%. I think the word intention is perhaps the most critical takeaway of this whole thing, is that we must be intentional in every moment that we're here. And we've got to think about now, as Eckhart Tolle called it, the power of now. we've got to be intentional in the now. Can't control the past, can't control the future unless you've got a time machine. And if somebody's got a time machine, let me know. I'd love to have it. But we've got to be intentional in the now about what we're doing with our own lives. Are we living lives of joy and happiness? And are we living our life to the fullest? That's a message that's constantly coming through, is live your life to the fullest. Why are we here? We're not here just to have lessons, that's a big part, but we're also here to learn how to have joy, learn to have the experiences of what it's like to be in the physical. Because guess what? When you're in the non-physical, you can't have that physical joy of seeing the sunrise or feeling the beautiful warmth of springtime on your face or the sun just beating down on you. You know, it's all beautiful, don't get me wrong, but one of the reasons why souls come back is they want to feel that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm going to take us down a deeper rabbit hole because of a comment that you made, because I think that this will be an interesting and intriguing discussion because you have a unique perspective. You've been working with spirit guides for 10 years. You've been watching the regrets of people on the other side as they come back and give messages to the loved ones who are left behind. But then when you said, if anybody has a time machine, let me know because I'd love to jump on that. And I'm curious, what do you think you would do with a time machine? Would you change things that you've done in the past? What would be the end game for you? Super curious.
What I would love to do is I would love to go visit ancient civilizations. 'Cause I'm a history freak. I was a history major in college, but what I love, my favorite time periods are Egyptian and the Middle Ages and the 1700s. Those are kind of my three big ones. So as from a time machine, I would love to go back in time and just kind of see, how did things really happen? Because there's I want to experience it. It's amazing, and there's so many questions. Of course, the farther back you go, the more questions there are. Look at Egypt, look at the pyramids, there's so many questions about that. And there's so many questions about who did what to whom, why did it happen, what could have happened, was there anything to change history? So it's not that I would want to change history because A, there's not really much purpose, and B, whatever happened for a reason, so I'm not going to mess with that. But I think the time machine is always kind of a fun novelty to think about. Not that I want to change anything, but it's more fun to sort of kick the tires and investigate and kind of see what really happened.
Have you actually been to Egypt?
No, I've always wanted to.
I went last year. It was amazing.
Really?
I highly recommend it. I'm going to go to Göbekli Tepe in Turkey next
Oh,
year.
yeah, there's another place. Yes.
I know. You said that, and my mind started shooting off all kinds of things. I'd love to hear everybody in the comments. If you have a place, like if you had a time machine, where would you go? Put in the
Yes, I'd love
comments.
to.
I would love to hear this. This will be super
Yes.
fun for me. Please do
Fun.
this.
Do that.
So, all right, because I thought you were going to go in a different direction, I'm going to ask this question a little bit differently. I actually made an assumption that maybe when you said a time machine, you'd go back because you could change something or not change something. So I'm going to ask you that, Chris, if you had a magic wand, would you change anything from your life?
There are a lot of things I wish I did that I didn't do. How about that? Yes, there are definitely things in my life that I regret doing. A lot of things in my life that I regret saying. So I know they have affected people in the wrong way, and it hurts them. It hurts me. I kind of look back and I just kind of shake my head, going, "What was I thinking?" or "Why did I do that?" It's kind of like, I can't believe I did that kind of thing. So
Oh,
if I had
sure. I think we all have those.
exactly. So if I had a time machine, would I change things, big things that, I did? Yeah,
You would. So interesting. I would not.
really.
Do you know why?
Why?
The reason actually is because if you like who you are right now and where you are right now, you can't change anything. Changing one thing changes everything about who
Right.
you are, what you understand, what you're doing. And I've come to feel over the last few years that everything is happening for me and not to me. And that means the bad things. It's sometimes really hard to reconcile when things are going in a bad direction. It's really hard to be like, why did that happen that way? I wanted to do this, it got canceled. Why did that happen? Or a car wreck or anything that's negative. It's really hard to stay in that mindset. But if you truly believe that everything is happening for you and not to you, it definitely changes how you react
Oh, yeah.
to all
Oh,
of
yeah.
those things. So, for that reason, even though there were things that I wish I had done differently, I would not change anything.
Yeah. I think I mean, you may be onto something because it's very much of perhaps this was part of the soul plan for somebody else. For
Right.
me to say something, it's like saying,
Yeah.
okay, why did I die so early or something? That's because it was part of the soul plan for somebody else to learn what it was like for me to die early. It's all interwoven. As I look at it as a human, I'm going, oh, I can't believe I
Of
did
course,
that.
you would change it as a human.
Yes, exactly. So that's what I'm speaking from humanness, okay?
I totally agree with that. So you mentioned something earlier that I think is super intriguing, and you were talking about these energy cascades that you were getting in the form of like goosebumps. What do you think goosebumps are? Because it happens all the time when I'm having these conversations where people will say that I ask them a question, they're getting goosebumps, or we're having a discussion, they get goosebumps. What do you think those are?
Well, I guess the reason I used the word goosebump was because that was the closest approximation I could come up with. What I was feeling, in fact, when I was a child, and also as I started coming out of that spiritual awakening, and ever since then, is really closer to something that I would refer to as effervescent champagne-like bubbles going up and down my upper arms, and in a blanket wrapped around my body. And
Wow.
when that happens, I know that spirit almost putting their hands on my arms. It's like I know, in fact, I can feel it. Well, as soon as the second I said that, they did it again because I can feel their hands right here and right here. It's like they're putting their hands on either side of my arms, and I can feel them do that. And it's like every time I give a mediumship reading and the contact just gets really close, I'll just feel them right here. I'm like, whoa, they are here. Wow. I mean, sometimes it's really strong. Sometimes it's really intense. Other times it's kind of like, really soft. But, when the contact's amazingly tight, you can't help but just feel it. It's like plastic wrap, shrink wrap wrapped around my torso. I'm like, whoa, this is amazing. So,
Right? Like confirmations from the other side.
oh, absolutely, because and this is where the physics comes in. Energy can either be created nor destroyed. It can only change form. What are we? We are energy. Energy cannot be destroyed. What happens to that energy when the physical body dies? It's got to go somewhere. So energy is maintained under thermodynamics all the time. It's the conservation of matter, conservation of energy. It cannot be destroyed. And that's happened over and over again. So what I'm experiencing every single time I have a contact is I'm feeling that energy coming in. You could be next to somebody in the physical. In fact, this happened to me several times where I was doing a blindfold reading. Somebody was doing a blindfold reading on me, and the practice was we were in mediumship circle. We're all practicing, and I come to this next person who's sitting in the chair. She's blindfolded, and she's kind of like got this smile on her face. And all of a sudden she goes, "Oh my God, I don't know who you are, but wow, you've got a lot of energy." I just was like, "What? What are you talking about?" Because at the time I couldn't figure it out. I hadn't kind of graduated to that level yet. And eventually she kind of told me what was going on. She's like, "Yeah, you're surrounded by all this energy." And that happened a couple other times when I was connecting with people. So we're all connected with energy. We are energy. We throw off energy, and like all energy, it's got waves. It's got peaks and troughs. We'll give off more. We'll give off less. We have auras. All the auras. You can take photos of them now. You can see them. I mean, they go up to like 8 feet. They'll have different vibrations, and so you'll feel the vibrations. Again, it's all physics, and this is the part of the material me. When I was back in finance, that I started going, "Oh, yeah, now I get it."
Wow. You have been working with the spirit team for 10 years now. So I'm curious, what do you think you've come to learn through those interactions with your spirit team that you didn't know before you had your spiritual awakening?
I think the thing that I didn't know before my awakening that I have come to realize now is that we are all love, but it just takes time for us to realize that, and it takes time for us to allow that to surface, to come to the surface. We have to allow ourselves to release that love that's here. I mean, the Beatles sang about this a lot, and they hit the nail on the head. We are all love. We are just love encased in this human form. We come from love. All energy is love. Everybody who is in a skeptical form might say, "Oh, that's hogwash. You're not love. What is love?" Well, love is just energy. And that's essentially what everything is. That's why every single person who's ever had an NDE, every single person who has transitioned and come back in a reading, every single person who has transitioned and come in on an automatic writing, they all say the same thing. Constantly, throughout history, it's all about love. So we're here in this dense physical form. We, as you probably know, and as all NDEers know, it's like, you come back into this physical form and you feel like you're being compressed into like the deep sea, and you're like, I can't take it. I was this massive, expansive being, and now I'm squished in this little tiny thing. Yeah, but just think how compact you are. You've got like powerful love. It's all inside you. And that's what I've started to understand over time, is that we are love. It's tough to express, but once you get there and you start realizing, oh yeah, I gotta let that out. I gotta express that. I've got to allow my being to express my feelings fully. Otherwise, I'm gonna be filled with regret for not having done or said the things that I know I should have.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I am going to ask the same question, but instead of from the perspective of the spirit guide, from the perspective of the spirits who have been coming through, the passed away loved ones on the other side. What do you think you've learned from them that you didn't know before you had this spiritual awakening?
I think perhaps the most common message that came through from spirit is allow yourself to express what's most important and what matters now. Because that seems to be the most common message, is to not only express what is on your mind now, what matters now, but also live your life to the fullest. Take advantage of everything that you have now. Take advantage of the existence in which you live. Be grateful and live in gratitude for the tiniest things you have. That cup of coffee in the morning, be grateful for it. That sunset in the evening, be grateful for it. That smell of cut grass, unless you have hay fever, be grateful for that. So just these tiniest things, the roof over your head, the food in your stomach. I mean, there are a lot of people who don't have food. There are a lot of people who don't have roofs over their head. There are a lot of people who don't have coffee. I feel sorry for you. There are, a lot of people who just don't have these things. So be grateful that you do have them.
Wow. So helpful for the people who are watching. I would imagine by now that there are a lot of people watching who would love to know how they can connect with you, how they can work with you. I know you have a book that you wrote as well.
Oh yeah, that book was a labor of love. It turned out to be something that got written and published from blank page to published in like 6 months.
Wow.
And my one of my mentors said, "You do realize that was automatically written, don't you?" I was like, "Really? Okay." Yeah, so if people want to get in contact with me, they can, get in contact with me in my email, chris@montclairmedium.com.
Will you spell it for the people who are just listening?
Sure. Chris, Chris, at Montclair, MONTCLAIR, medium, MEDIUM.com, montclairmedium.com. That's the website. And if they, want to look at different courses, there are courses there. There's also a spirit guide starter kit. They can look at that. And there's also a short 10-minute meditation if people want to start on their meditation route, which is how I started without even realizing it. If you just sit down for, the consistency, get that ego mind out of the way, then that's how it all starts.
You didn't say the name of your book.
Oh, the name of the book is Spirits Beside Us. And that's really very real because spirit is always beside us all the time.
Definitely. So, Chris, what do you think you know for sure?
I think, therefore I am. How about that?
Yeah, that's a good one. I haven't had that answer before.
What do I know for sure? I know there is no death. There is physical death. There is no real death because we live on forever. Our consciousness lives forever. That I know for sure.
Love that. Well, Chris, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for what you are doing to help wake up the collective. It is so needed right now.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And of course, yeah, thank you. And of course, this show is absolutely nothing without all of you who tune in to watch, to listen, and to share these beautiful experiences with somebody who needs it. But if you still have questions, you can join me for Wake Up Wednesdays live at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, everybody, for watching. This channel's for seekers, for hearts who remember there's something more. Subscribe to join the awakening. If you need more content to watch, AI algorithm actually knows you maybe better than you know yourself. And it is now suggesting a video that is tailor-made just for you. And you can click on it to watch it right now, right here.